Are you familiar with Mr. Civil Rights? Today we're discussing one of my favorite lawyers and freedom fighters. I'm talking about Baltimore's own. We're highlighting a man who fought for equality for the oppressed. He instilled a balanced approach towards law and order. His mission to destroy segregation became his lifelong purpose. Later on, earning the title from the weak-minded individuals, public enemy of the South. Today we're celebrating Thurgood Marshall. But before we begin this journey, because good vibes is on the way, I gotta introduce the brand, the lifestyle, Pilot Language. My name is Ra, and welcome to Pilot Language, my first episode of many. This is a place, or better yet, a flight of entertainment and self-care. Pilot Language believes that when you understand and acknowledge your person, your identity, you'll be whole with yourself, and you will treat the people around you better. Knowing who you are is important. Your self-awareness is everything for your mental and physical well-being. Sometimes the media will only cover one mindset that represents people who look like me. The whole race don't deserve one mindset being displayed on platforms and TV. People are complex, and they display many different behaviors and emotions. Our series is here to help you understand and showcase your full identity and discover the power of you. So enjoy yourself and tap in. Now, you ask me, this is the perfect conversation to have this week. I'm passing flowers to a giant. I want to talk about the only, and I mean the only, United States Black Supreme Court judge I know, Thurgood Marshall. In today's time, with only 5% of all lawyers being black, according to Forbes and according to the American Bar Association, Thurgood Marshall will remain one of the best lawyers to ever show up for justice. Now 5%, because I don't want to skip over that line real quick. I want to think about that line real quick. 5% of lawyers in the United States are black, but the most dominant race in prison is black. And then they went more into the article and saying that brown and black together represent 5%. But if you think about United States and you think about the races and the population of the United States, the deepest race right now is Hispanics. And right after Hispanics is black. So you got the two deepest races that's flooding the prison. But when it comes down to somebody representing you, when it comes down to somebody tapping into what you're going into and who could liberate you out of certain situations that understand firsthand, they're nowhere to be found. That's why Thurgood, who first was a lawyer, but later on become a Supreme Court judge, will be, for me, the top of the top. 29 out of 32 cases he argued before the Supreme Court. 29 would go down in history as wins. That's way over 90% on his resume. If this was my favorite video game right now, because I play my video games, here and there sometimes. If this was NBA 2K, Thurgood Marshall rating would be 100. And they don't even do that in 2K. You don't even get 100 ratings in 2K. But when you come from where he come from, and you won that many cases, and you hit so many levels, you got to give him 100. That boy good. That boy is good. This is the same man who has awards from the NAACP. This is the same king. Throughout the years, it's been no secret. I'm talking about since his college days, when he made sure University of Maryland knew who he was when they didn't want to accept him. I'm talking about since his college days, when he was taking cases for free, when the NAACP, and he was going across from state to state, freeing blacks. It's no secret of his great intentions towards a better future. Because we all know he changed the school system on the public school education. Brown versus education. Everybody remember that case. And, you know, like I was just highlighting a minute ago, he also changed the University of Maryland because he tried to go to the University of Maryland because he's from Baltimore. So he tried to go to the University of Maryland because it was close to home. He'd be close to his family. He could get an education because since he was a young child, his father instilled certain things within him. His father instilled certain things as far as law, as far as respect, as far as attention. His father, when he used to get off work, he used to go to the courtroom, look at cases, and then come back home and debate with Thurgood Marshall. His father also taught him respect all people, but never tolerate disrespect. So if somebody called you outside of your name, because this is the type of time he was living in. If somebody called you outside of your name, you know, with phrases like, I'm going to spell it out for you, with phrases like N-I-G-G, don't forget the E-R. Because they say the E-R. I don't say the E-R. And I don't know a lot of people today who look me in my face and would say the ER, but in Thurgood time, the people who said the ER, he always taught young Thurgood, never tolerate that. So this is the same man. This is the same man who finally made it out of the school system, who finally graduated, and who wanted to continue to apply himself for a better life. In his hometown, and the University of Maryland told him no. But if you go to the University of Maryland now, he got his own building. If you go to the University of Maryland now, they highlighting him. They got articles about him. They make sure you know his name before you know anything else about the University of Maryland. But what school did he go to? Because true indeed, he's a lawyer. True indeed, he's a judge. The Supreme Court judge. He was the first one to ever do it. He's not the only black Supreme Court judge. And I'm not even going to speak on the other one. I don't even want to even think about the other one because the other one is the perfect example of Pinocchio. You remember Pinocchio? You remember the Disney movie Pinocchio? You remember a puppet? You remember that puppet that lied so much and his nose grew so big? That's the second. That's the other black Supreme Court judge. So if you want to think of a clear picture of the other black Supreme Court judge, and you don't got time to go through the history, just turn on Disney. Just turn on the app. Put on Pinocchio. Look at a puppet. Look at that puppet dance. Look at that puppet nose continue to grow because he continue to lie. That's the other one. I'm talking about the real one though. I'm talking about the official one. I'm talking about Thurgood. So what school did Thurgood go to? Because I want to get off subject. Thurgood went to Howard University. So when I think about Howard University, I think about, in today's time, I think about excellence. I think about top notch. I think about top tier. I think about the one. But in Thurgood time, you know, it was a struggling school. So it was considered a dummy school. It was considered the lowest of the lowest. If you can't go to the University of Maryland because of what you look like, you got to go to Howard and figure it out. Howard today, amongst HBCs, ranked amongst the highest producers of the nation's black professors in medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, engineering, nursing, architects, religion, law, music, social work, and don't forget education. I'm talking about the big H. Here's another fun fact real quick. Howard is the first HBC ever to have its own figure skating team. But at the time that Thurgood went to the Howard University, Howard was cleaning up their record. So they was reconstructing. And while they was reconstructing, they was applying certain principles that always stayed with Thurgood Marshall. And he had a professor that always instilled in him that regardless of all the cases you take, regardless of all the wins you do, make sure you always hold on to your foundation. And what was his foundation? What's Thurgood's foundation? Because Thurgood's not only from Baltimore, Thurgood grew up in Harlem. Thurgood grew up in Harlem at a time when Harlem was the black mecca of media. Harlem was the black mecca of entertainment. Harlem was at a time where you could find a poet, you could find theater arts, visual arts on the same block. They had a thing in the back in the day called soapbox. People on their soapbox. So they be on the corner and they be displaying their art and they be displaying their talent and displaying their attentions, and their attentions all in line of collaboration, elevation, and empowerment. And growing up in a time where you got to cleanse, growing up at the time, because Thurgood grew up in a time that we couldn't go through the restaurant through the front, we had to go through the back. And while we going through the back of the restaurant, we over there by the dumpster. So what's by the dumpster? Oh, let me tell you, just in case you was wondering, let me tell you what real quick was by the dumpster. We got rats, we got freelancing cats, we got raccoons, we got everything but pleasant moments. That's by the dumpster. So when I go to spend my hard, working money to get wherever I get, I gotta stand by the dumpster. I gotta stand in the back and I gotta wait till you bring it to me. And imagine now where I want to go get clothes, because I can't pick nothing off the rack. I gotta wait until they tell me I can get that. Regardless if I got the money or not, they have to approve I can get that. And when I walk in the store, I'm not getting the welcome to such and such, thank you coming again. I'm not getting none of that. You know what I'm gonna get? I'm gonna get cussed out. Why you here? What do you want? So this all these type of things that this young man dealing with. But this young man had a father. And I think one of the best things that any young man, regardless of your race, regardless of what you look like, regardless of where you come from, any young man that has a father figure in his life is already winning. Anybody that you can look for as far as example, how to move and how to navigate, you're winning. True indeed, a mother love is one of the best love, but a mother can never be a father. So by him having a father that was in his life, that I told you that was breaking down the law to him, and teaching him how to communicate with the debates, and teaching him how to identify certain things and defend himself and have value for himself, I'm not surprised that Thurgood became the first, I would say the last, because I don't count Pinocchio. I'm going to call him Pinocchio. That's not his real name, but if you ask Ra from pilot language, his name is Pinocchio. I'm talking about the first black Supreme Court judge. And disclaimer, before I go too far, disclaimer. Shout out to Joe. I'm not talking about Kataji in no way, form, in no fashion. I'm not talking about Kataji. I'm talking about Clarence when I say Pinocchio. But when I say greatness, I'm talking about Thurgood. Shout out Kataji, but I'm focused on Thurgood today. But let's tap back into Mr. Civil Rights. Mr. Civil Rights was the title that Thurgood Marshall earned by applying his attention. A great man once told him a lawyer is either a social engineer or a puppet. I talked about that earlier, about the puppet. I believe in social engineering. After graduating from Howard, he went back to Maryland, and he helped a student by becoming the man who changed the University of Maryland rules with dealing with blacks in a 1935 case. This ruling made a major impact on Maryland's school system. They instantly raised their budgets for African American education. Smart move, Maryland. The state of Maryland gave Bowie, that's another HBC, money for a new building. The state also gave grants to a private school for African Americans in Baltimore, funds for a new gym. And I look at the University of Maryland different today. It's a full circle moment. The University of Maryland has a building called the Thurgood Marshall Hall. The same man who was a nod has his own building. The energy always repays the vibrations for the ones who pull from a higher self. The University of Maryland also shared that the things that we are teaching the students, the things that we are instructing, the legacy that we are building, they must uphold the legacy of the namesake. It means every single day, as the work is being done here, it must be done with a full focus in the way that Justice Marshall lived his life. I like that. I like that a lot from the University of Maryland, for real. Making it right towards Thurgood and his people. Respect never dies. Intentions and receipts are good business. Shout out to Maryland University for highlighting the giant. One of my favorite facts about Thurgood was that he used the courts to chop away at Jim Crow. He was a huge, and I mean huge, civil rights fighters. You know, we could talk about Martin Luther King. We could definitely celebrate Malcolm X, but we cannot forget about Thurgood Marshall. And I want to speak about Jim Crow for a little bit, if you don't mind, because some today in younger generations look at Jim Crow as a word, like, you know, this is a piece of paper. Jim Crow was laws that legalized oppression and torture for blacks. Even though we had a legal genocide for 400 years before Jim Crow. And genocide is a word I hear a lot, but I want to make sure I paint this picture clear for everyone. Genocide means a premeditated killing from a large number of people, either from a nation or from a group of people with an aim to destroy that nation or a group of people. Thank you, Google. And I wonder if my son's school books in high school would describe slavery as a genocide. But Jim Crow lasted for 100 years. 100 years equal a century. And we just escaped and fought for our freedom as humans. 400 years worth of fighting. And now we're walking into 100 years of black codes. Black codes. Black codes were the same thing that Thurgood Marshall went on the tour. Because after Thurgood Marshall graduated from Howard, and after Thurgood Marshall, made sure University of Maryland never forget his name, he went on the tour with the NAACP to break down black codes. So black codes were the foundation of Jim Crow. These were law passes in unhealthy conditions with a purpose that closely detailed how formally, because you're not a slave no more. Technically you're free, but you're not. How formerly enslaved righteous people could afford a livelihood and a peace of mind. These codes appear mainly in the South. This design plan built legal ways to have black civilians, African Americans, remain a slave with a different look other than the cotton field. So what could that be other than the cotton field? Because the cotton field can be in your typical movies, The Roots, 7 Years a Slave. What was the name of it? 7 Years Slave? 12 Years a Slave. What is 7 Years a Slave? 12 Years a Slave. So it gave a different look other than that. So that's dealing with your restaurants, that's dealing with your restrooms, that's dealing with the water fountain. Negroes chasing freedom once again. And the legal system back then was stacked against us. I bet that sounds familiar. Black defenders 98% of the time received longer sentences than their white counterparts. So basically with that, when a family, similar to the Brown versus education, when a family figured out something was going on, they would call NAACP. When they feel like their back was against the wall, they call NAACP, and NAACP will get Thurgood Marshall. And Thurgood Marshall will come down to that state or that city, and then he'll collaborate with that lawyer and he'll beat the case. You know, they got movies about it, they got books about it, but I don't think we hear it enough. I don't think it's represented enough. I know in Baltimore, where he from, if you go downtown in Baltimore, we got a big statue of Ray Lewis. I'm talking about that statue nice. It's Ray Lewis doing this dance right after he do a tackle. So, you know, if you never seen Ray Lewis, imagine somebody with one knee up, one leg down, flexing his chest, extending his arms. Big statue up in the city downtown. But I don't think we got no, I don't remember seeing no statue downtown of Thurgood Marshall. Yeah, he got his own hall in University of Maryland, but I think he needs his own day in the state of Maryland. I think he deserves his own day just like Martin Luther King got his own day. And I can go on and on about the great Thurgood Marshall and all the great things that he did. But I wouldn't do you no justice by that. I'm only here to assist. And I'm only here to pass information for you to dig deeper and tap into. So before I go, I want to tell you again who this man was. Born in Baltimore, moved to Harlem, raised by a father, raised by a mother, a husband, a scholar, a big stepper, a person who never forgot where he came from, a person that always made sure to get his bag, always made sure to represent his name, and always made sure to represent people who look like him. But check this out, good people. I like to draw inspiration from people who have paved the way. And I'm going to share information through education, entertainment, and self-care stories and opportunities with pilot language. My name is Ra, and this is Pilot Language. I will see you soon. Make sure you continue to tap in.
Flawless victory.